All right, so we're looking at another example where we're going to select an appropriate display based on the information that they're giving to us. So in this example, they say that a survey asked a sample of teens which subject they felt was most difficult. Of those who responded, 50% said English, 78% said social studies, 34%, I'm sorry, 30, not percentages, sorry, this is the quantity. 50 said English, 78 said social studies, 34 said science, and 38 said other. So we're going to select an appropriate display for us to show the percentage of the students who chose English, and then we need to create the display. So looking at this information, there's two things that we need to ask ourselves. What type of information do they give us? Um, they give us numerical information. And so I'm going to put that on here. We have numerical data. Numerical. And we want to know what do we want to display? Well, they want us to show the percentages. So that's what we're looking for. So we're looking for percentages. And how will it be analyzed? So the way that we're going to analyze it is looking at the different subjects, and each of them should be showing us a percentage of the whole. So knowing that information, I think that it's going to be best for us to use a circle graph. So the circle graph, what we're going to do is take down each of the subjects. So we have English, we have social studies, we have science, and the last one is other. All right, so English, we have a total of 50. Social studies is 78. Science is 34. And other is 38. Okay, so remember when we're talking about a circle graph, you're going to look at a circle. The circle is going to represent 100%. So 100% is going to be represented inside of the circle. And in order for us to do that, we need to figure out what our 100% is. So we're going to add up all these numbers here. So we have 50 plus 78 plus 34 plus 38. Altogether, we have a total of 200. Okay, so we can use what we've learned in terms of circle graphs for us to find out what the percentages is for each one of these. So we could say 50 divided by 200, which is, this is our part divided by the whole. By doing that, I know that 50 is 25% of 200, but you can do your calculations if you need to. So with it being 25%, it's going to look like 0.25. That's the same thing as 25 hundredths or 25%. In terms of our social studies, that's 78 divided by 200. So that gives me 39%. And then we have science. Science is 34 out of 200. That gives me 17%. And then finally, we have 38 out of 200. And that's going to give me 19%. All right, so I have it in decimal form for each one of those. And now we need to figure out what our angles is going to look like for each of our pieces within the circle graph. So altogether, remember that the circle graph is going to represent 100%. And when we talk about 100% in terms of a circle graph, that is equal to 360 degrees. Okay, so 100% is equal to 360 degrees. So we're going to figure out what those degrees are going to look like over here. So to do that, you just take each of those percentages. So we have 25% for English. We multiply that by 360. Multiplying 25 by 360 should be 90. Yep, so we have 90 degrees for English. We're going to have 39%, so 0.39 of 360. That gives me 140.4. Typically, we will round up to the nearest whole number. So I'm gonna round up to the nearest whole number, and the reason for that is because if you look at my compass, I'm sorry, not my compass, my protractor. If you look at my protractor, it goes by whole numbers. Let me see if I can put a piece of paper underneath so you can see it. So looking at my compass, notice that it only has whole numbers, right? And so we want to make sure um, that we get as close as we can to the nearest whole number. All right, so that will be rounded to 140 for social studies. And then we have our science. So science is 17% times 360. So 17% of 360 is equal to 61.2. So that's 61 degrees if we round it to the nearest whole number. And then finally we have 19%, so 0.19 times 360. And we end up with 68.4. And if we round that to the nearest whole number, that gives us 68 degrees. Now, what I've noticed is that each one of them that we rounded up to, all of them were rounded down. Like we didn't round up in any of those. So what's going to happen is when we look at our degrees over here, if we add everything up, 90 plus 140 plus 61 plus 68 gives us 359. So what we could do is just take one of our numbers and just round it up. And it doesn't matter which one. So I would round up either the 140.4 to a 141 or 68 to 69. Otherwise, if you try to graph it, what's going to happen is just that you're going to be 1 degree short. So I'm just going to round up that 140 to 141. Now we have 360 degrees shown over here. All right, so now we're going to go in and graph it on our chart. So I already drew out our circle graph. So there's our circle graph here. And what we're going to do is we're going to, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little better. And I'll turn the light on. Maybe that'll, I don't know if that helped. Okay, so it'll go like that. And there we go. We can see um, our whole circle graph. So there's our circle graph. And so we know that the first part that we're going to create, we need an angle of 90 degrees. So I'm going to take my protractor and I'm going to put my cross on the zero. On the center. There's our center here. So I'm going to just put it right there on top of it. And then I'm just going to draw 2 quick angles, right? So that's going to go over the 0. This is 0. And this one was supposed to be 90 degrees. So we're going to go right here. There's 90. Now I'm going to take my protractor, and I'm going to draw my angle going straight through to the center. Making sure that I cover that line that I created and that it's going through the dot, which is the center. All right, so there's our 90 degree. So this 90 degree represents 25%, and that 25% was English. And this is a 90-degree angle. All right, so our next one that we need is going to be for social studies. We rounded that one up to 141 degrees. So I'm going to put my protractor on top of the center, make sure that one side is lined up. This is going to be our 0, and we are going to go to 141 degrees. So I need to find 141. So this is 0. I'm looking at the number on the bottom and going all the way until I get to 141, which is right here. Okay, and so there's my notch. Just going to put my pencil there and line up so that it goes through the center. There we go. And just go straight on down. There we go. So this is 141 degree angle. And this represents 39%. So this is 39%, which represents our social studies. Okay, and the next one that we have is going to be science. Science was 61 degrees. So we're going to do 61 degrees now. So I'm going to put this on top of the center, go to the 0, and 61 degrees is going to be about right there. Okay, and I'm just going to put my pencil over the line that I made and just making sure that I see the center there and just go straight on through. All right, so this is 61 degrees. This represents 17%. So this is 17%, which is represented by science. And then our final one that we should have is going to be a 68-degree angle. This was a 61-degree angle. This should be a 68-degree angle. And this represents 19%, which is going to be for other. So here's our circle graph. It has, there's our center here, and then we've just drawn our angles to each of the points to show how that circle graph would look.